Okay, so hello, and here we are at the centre in Newlyn where Shallal Dance Theatre meet. And I was talking today about our latest podcast with Alan Munden about the Kindertransport, and I'm here with Katherine Giddings, one of our favourite people in Shallal. I shouldn't say that, but everyone's favourite, but one of our favourite people in Shallal. And Katherine was saying that she has a real story and a lot of personal history around the Kindertransport and Germany and all of that time and the Jewish people. So we're catching the moment and we're really excited to be here. So Katherine is sitting next to me. She has brown hair, she has glasses on, a beige shirt, and there's a window behind her, a lovely smile. And I'm sitting here, I've got blue glasses, grey hair, a pink scarf and a black top, and there's a painting just behind me. So, Katherine, thank you so much for grabbing the moment. And what would you like to tell us? It sounds exciting of what you've told me already, but if you'd like to tell us again, thank you.
I'll tell you firstly a little bit about my immediate family history, and then specifically about their connections to the war. My grandmother was born in 1899, and I don't know where, but in Germany. And she, about 20 years later, heard someone called Hitler giving a talk about what he would do if he were in power. And she was Jewish, and Hitler's talk was already focusing on how in power he would exclude historic reference to the Jews. They were not to be part of the Germans. And she and my grandfather, they were married about 1930-ish, and they made arrangements for coming to England, and now to a relative called Otto Hirsch, who, when everyone else was leaving Germany, all the Jews were leaving Germany, he stayed and went to Berlin and became representative of the Jewish community, met Hitler. Of course, he didn't survive the war, but at the beginning, he chose to stay so as to be representative for the Jewish community. And one of the things that he helped to create was what they called the Kindertransport, children, a method of finding ways for Jewish children whose parents were put into camps or who didn't survive one way or another to leave Germany. And so he was very instrumental in that. And about 20 years ago, I should think, I was with one of his two daughters when I learned that Otto had two daughters and a son, and he somehow managed to enable his two daughters to go to England, where my grandmother and grandfather brought them up. And remarkably, he was able to leave Berlin to come to England to check that his daughters were all right as late as, I think it was 1938, the year before the war started. So he had chosen his destiny. I think I said he met Hitler, and of course he couldn't survive. He knew that, but he made this wonderful contribution to help the Jewish community.
Brilliant. And you were saying that his wife tried to escape but wasn't able to. Yes,
indeed. She somehow found her way across Europe from Germany to Portugal. Her two girls, they had already enabled to escape, and they had come to England to be brought up by my grandparents. And because Otto Hirsch was a very well-known name in the Nazi community, and they didn't like him. They wouldn't, somehow they stopped his wife from escaping, and she was taken back into, I don't know where, but she didn't survive. She went to a camp. And
did was it your grandparents that looked after his daughters? Did they know him?
His daughters. Well, my grandparents had 2 daughters,
right,
and they were in England.
Yes.
And Otto's 2 daughters came and lived with my English family.
Oh, okay. So with your parents?
Yes.
Yes.
With my grandparents.
With your grandparents.
That's right.
Wow.
And somehow they had a brother, Hans, and they found some way of getting him out to America, where they had relatives.
Yes.
A lot of Jews went to America. And so he grew up there. And sometime, not all that long ago, the German community, the German government, wanted to pay respects to Otto Hirsch. And that took place. There was a statue to him, I think, in Israel, not Haifa, in the capital, what's it called?
Jerusalem?
Yes, Jerusalem. And so there was memory of him there. And also, it was good that many years later, the German public had recognition of what some Germans had done.
Yes. And you were saying also, was it your mother or your grandmother went as a child to school and came back saying...
That was my mother,
yes. Was it your mother? That's an interesting story.
Yes. When she was 11, she had about people called Jews at school. Her parents weren't religious and had no connection to any Jewish community. So she had just supposed she was German like everyone else. And at 11, she talked to her parents about what she had at school. And they said to her that they were Jewish. And at that time, other families in their situation, the parents didn't always admit to their children that they were Jewish. And that gave their children enormous psychological problems later in their lives, because they were denying something which they didn't really understand, but which was very fundamental to their identity, their nationality.
And you were saying that your aunt, your aunt was the one who'd heard Hitler speak, and she knew, because she was quite left-wing, she knew, and she'd realised it was dangerous, so she encouraged your mother, everyone to get out. Is that right?
That's right. That was my grandmother.
Your grandmother.
Yes, that's right. And she understood that this man, if he was in power, as she'd heard him talk, how he would behave, she recognized, because she was very politically oriented and very conscious of her Jewish identity. So she realized that they might have to leave Germany, which they did.
Was that in 1933, did you say? Was it quite? Yes, so it's quite early. Yes, so she really, yes.
Indeed.
Yes.
And so they had time to bring some things out, lots of things they couldn't bring out. I was very fortunate, although I wasn't born by then, in that one of the things they cherished was their grand piano. And that has been in my life since I was naught. And it's a very beautiful one. Last year I finished teaching, after teaching the piano for 50 years. So it's
very special.
Part of the German, the family connection.
Wonderful. I think that's wonderful. We all love Catherine's piano playing and your musicality. Yes, we love it. Very lovely. So I always say, Katherine, is there anything else you want to say? Anything else you can think of you want to add? I mean, it's really fascinating. Thank you.
I can't think of anything.
Okay. Thank you, my darling.
Thank you.
Great.
My grandparents, my grandmother particularly, on coming to England, was one of the founder members of a Jew group, 3 or 4 Jewish refugee homes for the elderly, people who shared the same experience, sort of experiences. And I grew up hearing, I went to 2 of those homes and listened to the people talking about their experiences, which was always fascinating. And I don't know where I'm going.
No, it's all right, because we've just been listening to Al's introduction to his talk, so it was just sparking off different memories, wasn't it?
Exactly.
So it's just it is just a thing of memory, so there's no pressure. Whatever you remember, that's fine.
You know, a particular person, but this may not be relevant.
Have
you heard of a violinist, cellist called Stephen Isserlis?
Rings a bell.
He was one of the greatest cellists there has been in the last. I heard him at Prussia Cove, first of all, and I followed his history. And my grandmother told me about his grandparents, who lived one in each of the 2 neighborly old age homes, one for men, one for women. And he had a very famous grandfather who was a pianist in Vienna and who escaped from Germany at the same sort of time as my grandfather. And I don't know where I'm going.
No, that's right. It's just all those people that have come through that. I think it's like you sort of forget what's happened, and Al talks about, you know, it's a sort of it's there with you all the time, but it's not maybe on the surface all the time. So it's part of your history.
Something this which interests me, but it may not be relevant. I'll tell you about it.
Yes.
One of the reasons that Jews often became musicians was that their history didn't enable them to own land.
Yes.
They couldn't become artists because it was the church that created paintings and the word of Christ, Christian paintings for many centuries. And this is one of the reasons why playing instruments was something, not a piano like mine, but most were easily transportable.
Yes.
That's one reason.
That you could play wherever you went, because they were always fairly persecuted, weren't they? I remember saying
that's right.
They weren't, and also I remember, but I don't have very good memory for detail, but they did change it. They were involved with changing money and everything, again, because they weren't allowed to own land.
Absolutely.
So it wasn't that they chose those jobs; they were the only jobs that were available to them.
Banking was one.
Banking
finance was one.
Yes,
of the ones.
and again, you can move with that. It's not. It's not settled to a place. So it's not. Yes, it's sort of forced onto people rather than something they're choosing. Yes,
and that's been so for centuries.
Yes,
that the money side of things was an aspect that they focused on for lack of others.
Yes,
like not owning property.
Yes, yes, it's sort of terrifying. Again, I was talking about it earlier, when you unpick things and where the history comes from and why there's a bias or a prejudice is often so distorted. And often it's the oppressor that started that anyway.
Yes.
Way back.
Yes.
So yes.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. We have a lot to repent for.
Yes, don't we?
Yes.
I'm enjoying this.
Yes.
Shall I leave it at that?
And have you got anything else, Catherine? Anything else you can think of you want to say? Just even about, I suppose, about your family and their Jewishness and being in, because it came to Britain, you know, and how that was. Just anything around that, you know, or your connection still to Germany, because Alan and Jude have gone back to Germany, where there's been that sort of reparation, you know, and there've been people's footprints fixed into the pavement. I can't remember the name of the project now. It's a very moving thing of sort of repentance and remorse. So I just, yes, anything you can think of.
and to focus on my mother coming to England.
How old was she when she came?
14.
14, that's the same as Lisa. Okay, yes, interesting.
I
Yes.
gather they're very similar.
Yes, yes.
And getting to.
Don't worry, I think we've done well.
I think
we've done well, and we can always record something else another day. I think that's great.